Americans in Afghanistan or Iran. Deadly terrorist attacks in Iraq, 2 separate attacks on U.S. military convoys in Ramadi, 2 civilians killed and 2 others wounded when a homemade bomb went off as a convoy passed. No injuries or deaths were reported in another attack on a busy Ramadi road. A 3rd car bomb also exploded south of Baghdad, killing 14 and injuring several others. It's officially over for Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. Aniston filed divorce papers in Los Angeles Superior Court, citing irreconcilable differences. The superstar couple married in July of 2000. They announced they're formally separating last January. More headlines coming your way at the bottom of the hour. I'm Donna Fiducia. Special Report starts right now.
Welcome to Washington. I'm Jim Angle in for Britt Hume. 1 week after a Florida court ordered Terri Schiavo's feeding tube disconnected, the chances of saving her grow even bleaker. Why, some ask, are the courts letting her die while people across the country urge authorities to help her stay alive? Fox News correspondent Major Garrett takes a look.
Protesters who think of themselves as pilgrims speaking the anguished language of mercy. Meanwhile, court after court refuses to reinsert Terri Schiavo's feeding tube, speaking the parched language of law.
Hitler began with the severely disabled.
Passion versus procedure. In America, even when the stakes are life and death, constitutional experts say process prevails.
It's necessary for the courts to do it in almost a bloodless way, to do it by the rules, by the procedures, so that we have the rule of law and not the rule of men.
Federal District Judge James Whittemore today again turned down requests to restart food and water for Schiavo, now on her 8th day with neither. Schiavo's family appealed to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, where it's already lost twice this week. The attorney for Schiavo's legal guardian, estranged husband Michael, said the courts have been protecting Terri, not endangering her.
No one controls our body. It's up to us to decide whether we want medical treatment, and we don't. Terri made that decision. She has the right to have that decision carried out.
Florida's Governor Jeb Bush, legally blocked from taking state custody of Schiavo, says he's out of options, cold comfort to protesters at the gates of the governor's mansion. As the Schiavo family appeals have filtered through Florida courts, the federal courts, and all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, one question has eclipsed all others. Was Terri's case handled fairly?
The courts are used to deciding cases based on very arcane procedure, and the emotional aspects of this case do not come through those procedures.
The Republican-led U.S. Congress sensed this clash and tried to nudge the federal courts to go beyond procedure and revisit Schiavo's entire case. But the federal courts refused.
What we did in the Congress had no constructive effect in terms of Terri Schiavo's condition, but it certainly had a profound political impact.
Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist, a potential presidential candidate, has solidified his standing with pro-life organizations fighting for Schiavo's family. For House Majority Leader Tom DeLay, beset with what he regards as frivolous charges of new ethical lapses, the Schiavo saga has energized support among cultural conservatives. In a tape-recorded speech last week before a closed-door briefing to the Conservative Family Research Council, DeLay implied he and Schiavo were battling the same foes.
We have to do everything that is in our power to save Terri Schiavo and anybody else that may be in this kind of position. And let me just finish with this. This is exactly the issue that's going on in America, that of attacks against the conservative movement, against me and against many others.
Just moments ago, the presiding Florida judge in this case, George Greer, held a teleconference on an extraordinary last-ditch appeal from Schiavo's family. They're basically asking not that the feeding tube be reinserted, but just have a temporary IV placed in Terri so the court could review what they assert is new evidence that Schiavo says she wants to live. The family produced affidavits from 2 witnesses who said Schiavo made the first 2 sounds, I and wha, in response to a prompting question, do you want to live? The witnesses interpret those sounds as meaning, I want to live. This event happened, the affidavits say, on March 18th. The attorney for Michael Schiavo said, this is not evidence of new brain abilities or a new preference for life from Schiavo, merely a sympathetic witnesses hearing what they wanted to hear. Judge Greer said he would rule on this motion before noon tomorrow. Jim?
Major, thank you. Protests escalated today outside Terri Schiavo's hospice in Pinellas Park, Florida, with more arrests and more activists coming out to protest. Fox News correspondent Julie Banderas is in Pinellas Park and joins us now. Julie?
Hi, Jim. Well, we're still awaiting word from that state court right now. That emergency hearing still in session and no decision as of yet. But Terri's parents are being called. Those parents that are desperately trying and in a last-ditch effort right now as protesters continue to stand by their side until the very bitter end here in Pinellas Park, Florida. Now, the Pinellas Circuit Judge is the man who originally called to have Terri's feeding tube removed. That is Judge Whittemore. Last Friday, Judge Greer had it removed, and then Whittemore rejected their appeals on Tuesday. Since then, she has gone with no nourishment whatsoever, and her family has been watching her physically fade away. Her father, Bob Schindler, is afraid Terri is slipping away fast.
Terri is weakening. She's down to her last hours. So something has to be done, and it has to be done quick.
Meantime, more protesters making sacrifices today. In fact, 8 people were arrested, 5 adults, including 3 juveniles. Now, 2 13-year-old sisters and their mother were arrested today as part of an ongoing symbolic move that's been going on here for 7 days now outside Terri's hospice. People have been trying to go in and bring Terri water, obviously knowing getting by the police presence out here impossible, but nonetheless out here trying to show their support. Now, supporters of the Schindler family have been standing outside the hospice for 7 days. That's the same amount of time Terri has gone with no food or water. And on this Holy Week, 2 days before Easter, people outside the hospice today praying for a miracle.
In our tradition, this is Good Friday, the day that Jesus Christ was crucified, and we knew that if the governor doesn't take action, this will be Terri Schiavo's Good Friday.
And prayers continue here today, and of course, when we hear word from that state court, we'll bring it to you live. Jim?
Julie, thank you very much. Next on Special Report, President Bush calls a foreign leader to announce U.S. plans to sell fighter jets to 2 neighboring rivals. We'll have a report.
Convinced the lost cities of gold existed, he slaughtered those who stood in the way of his conquest. For Francisco Vasquez de Coronado, discovery was the easy part. Conquest of America. Check your local listings.
Zoom on in to Rentway now for low sale rental rates on an RCA 52-inch big screen TV and big savings on 4 Ashley 7-piece living room sets. And enter to win one of 12 motorcycles during our Harley-Davidson giveaway. Check your mailbox for your Rentway flyer this week.
Hey, hi, you want to save money on gas? How about 10%?
Huh?
How'd you like a $25 Marathon cash card too? Get the Marathon Platinum MasterCard from Chase and receive a 10% rebate. That's about 18 cents a gallon. Plus, you get that $25 Marathon cash card. Here's an application.
Sure.
Thanks. I gotta go. I need it on pump 5.
Peace of mind. It's what lets you enjoy your home instead of worrying about what can go wrong with it, like termites. If you're concerned they're feeding on your home, they're also eating away at your peace of mind, which is why you should ask your pest professional about Termidor, America's #1 termite defense product. With a pest professional and Termidor ensuring your home is termite-free, you're free to focus on more important things.
Hey, what happened to the dishwasher?
Visit us online to find a pest professional near you.
Fast cash to consolidate bills and lower your payments? Get a $49 flat fee second mortgage from Ditech.com.
I lost another one to Ditech.
Log on or call 1-800-DITECH-1.
One of America's staunchest allies in the war on terror has been Pakistan. And now the U.S. wants to sell Pakistan warplanes in part as a reward for promoting peace and stability. But Pakistan's neighbor, India, worries it could be put at a disadvantage. Fox News Chief White House correspondent Carl Cameron reports.
The Bush administration wants to sell about 24 nuclear-capable F-16 fighter jets to Pakistan. while at the same time it's giving the green light to selling a large number of F-16s and perhaps F-18s to India, Pakistan's nuclear rival next door. Administration officials call the decision in part a reward for Pakistan's vital role in the war on terror. It'll be the first time since the 80s, when the U.S. put an arms embargo on Pakistan for developing nuclear weapons, that Islamabad is allowed to buy U.S. fighter jets. But next door India objects, worrying it will upset the delicate balance of power with Pakistan. This morning, Mr. Bush called to reassure India's Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, seen here with the president at the UN last year. The Indian leader expressed his, quote, great disappointment at the president's decision. But Mr. Bush said the deal would go forward and will not alter the security dynamic in the region. As peace demonstrators marched in Pakistan today, administration officials argued that decades of tension and violence over the disputed region of Kashmir, and in general between the largely Muslim Pakistan and largely Hindu India, have improved in recent months.
The relations between them have come a long way, and the thaw between India and Pakistan, relations between India and Pakistan have never been better.
India will in fact be allowed to buy U.S. jets too. India plans to expand its air force by about 126 jets soon, but has not decided if they'll purchase them from the U.S., France, elsewhere, or some combination. They're expected, however, to have more jets than Pakistan. The State Department suggested arming former rivals will help them be better friends in the future.
You have to look at it not from the prism of selling arms to countries that have traditionally had hostilities, but rather working to build relationships and trust and encourage positive movement that has already been there.
While the U.S. is lifting its own embargo on fighter jets for Pakistan, it opposes a European plan to lift a separate embargo on China, arguing that China is escalating tensions with Taiwan and throughout the region, whereas India and Pakistan are talking peace. The jet sales are still some distance from being a done deal. The Bush administration says the negotiations are just now beginning, and once the final details are approved, they'll still require congressional approval. In Washington, Carl Cameron, Fox News.
Those close to UN Secretary General Kofi Annan say he's been confident and relaxed as he awaits the latest report from Chief Oil for Food investigator Paul Volcker. But if newspapers today are correct, that confidence may be shaken. Fox News correspondent Jonathan Hunt reports.
The Wall Street Journal says Paul Volcker's interim report, due on Tuesday, will directly fault the Secretary General for management lapses, criticizing him for failing to do anything to correct systemic failures in the UN's internal bureaucracy, failures that led to the Oil for Food program being abused to the tune of billions of dollars. The WSJ says Mr. Volcker's report will also criticize Mr. Annan for failing to pay attention to a conflict of interest over his son Kojo's employment with a company that won a lucrative Oil for Food contract. Between 1992 and early 99, Mr. Annan met 4 times with executives from Swiss-based Cotecna, who employed Kojo Annan from 1996 to December 1998, and continued paying him $2,500 a month right up until last year, a fee Cotecna says was paid to ensure Kojo did not start working for a competing company. The UN has previously brushed off the meetings between Mr. Annan and Cotecna as either routine or simply chance encounters, while the Secretary General himself has claimed he wasn't aware of the continuing payments to his son. But if these leaks are right, Mr. Annan will face extensive criticism for holding the meetings with Cotecna, for not dealing with the apparent conflict of interest, and more broadly and ultimately more importantly, for not tackling the many problems which were evident early on in the running of the Oil for Food program. So as Mr. Annan waits for the publication of the full report on Tuesday, he's unlikely to enjoy a comfortable weekend. In New York, Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
U.S. forces in Iraq have made what they call an unbelievable discovery at a prison on the Iraq-Kuwait border. Fox News Pentagon correspondent Brett Baer is at the Pentagon with the details. Brett?
Hey, Jim, it sounds like a movie plot, but U.S. commanders say the details of an attempted prison break by detainees in southern Iraq is reality. About 6,000 detainees are currently being held at Camp Bucca along the Iraqi-Kuwaiti border. Camp Bucca is the site where a number of these detainees have been held for the past 3 years. U.S. military police say they made an amazing discovery there today, a series of tunnels, one of them 600 feet long, that led from detainees' cells to an exit point outside the perimeter of the camp. Now, we have some video of Camp Bucca in 2003 when some prisoners there were being released. Commanders say the detainees dug the tunnels using makeshift tools and then used a cutaway 5-gallon gas can tied to a long rope to haul the excavated dirt out of those tunnels. They covered the entrances and exits with false floors made from plywood slats from their beds and then flushed the excavated dirt down toilets inside the prison. Now, this discovery of the tunnels came just hours before a visit from the top U.S. commander in Iraq, General George Casey, seen here at the Pentagon. The commanders believe the detainees were waiting for dense fog that rolls in after midnight to pull off their escape. The general in charge of the camp said his soldiers narrowly avoided, quote, a very bad thing today. All detainees have been accounted for and the tunnels are being destroyed. The MPs first became suspicious when workers were emptying the latrines, found out that they were jammed with dirt. Then a young Army specialist found the longest tunnel, and the Iraqi version of the Great Escape had a different ending. Jim?
Brad, thanks very much. Next on Special Report, what has Terri Schiavo's case done for the debate over someone's right to die or the right to live? We'll look for answers next.
This program is brought to you by Branson. You would never guess one word could mean so much fun.
Go. Bring it on already.
We know you can do it.
One word. Oh, throw away. Blowfish?
Fish.
He's dancing. Dancing.
An Irish dance.
What is it? Are you sure it's only one word?
Fishing jig.
Drumming.
The guitar. He's playing the guitar. It's a dancing fish that plays the guitar. What's he doing?
Branson. You'd never guess one word could mean so much fun. Call 1-800-BRANSON or visit explorebranson.com.
Hey, Mr. Randall.
I gotta get out of that back row.
Spending too much time on paperwork? Then get the Visa Business Card. And forget about checks and sorting charges from your personal card because all your expenses are detailed on one statement. Visa Business. Just about everything you need to run a better business.
Today, Best Buy gives you the power to control KG with one finger. Watch.
Games, the stuff, it all comes together right here. Best Buy, thousands of possibilities. Get yours.
For you, my sweet. I see you are overcome with love. Or could it be congestion and other seasonal nasal allergy symptoms? Your congestion will not keep us apart.
Only Nasonex is clinically proven to both treat and help prevent most seasonal nasal allergy symptoms, including congestion. Side effects were generally mild and included headache, viral infection, sore throat, nosebleeds, and coughing.
Love means never having to say you are congested.
To treat and help prevent most seasonal nasal allergy symptoms, Nasonex is the one. Talk to your doctor.
Ready for spring? Then call LA Weight Loss.
This is me now after LA Weight Loss helped me lose 70 pounds.
The first 10 days,
I lost 7 pounds.
I lost 13 pounds.
And I thought, wow, I can do this.
Doing the LA Weight Loss program, I'm now a size 4.
LA Weight Loss changed my life, and it can change yours.
Pick up the phone and call. 35 weeks, 98 pounds, you can do it.
Call for your free consultation. 1-866-517-SLIM.
¿Qué tal, amigos? Yo soy Jenny Rivera y quiero invitarlos a que sigan aquí con mi comadre en una cita con Nelly. Que Dios les bendiga.
Sala ya tu cita con Nelly. Es hora de tu disfrutar. Qué buena la vas a pasar. Siéntate, lístate ya. Es tu cita con Nelly.
Y ahora, 3 veces a la semana, tú tienes una cita con Nelly.
The legal wrangling over Terri Schiavo's fate is only part of this agonizing national debate over life and death and who decides for those unable to voice their own preferences. A lot of questions have been raised by this case. How has it changed the debate over preserving or ending life? Syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor Charles Krauthammer is a frequent panelist on this program. But you may not realize he's also a graduate of Harvard Medical School, board certified by the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology, and also a member of the President's Council on Bioethics. Charles, thanks for coming in on this.
Pleasure.
It appears, at least the way things are now headed, that Terri Schiavo will be allowed to die. What will be the legacy of this case and of her ordeal?
Well, I think it's a case that people will remember, and it will heighten our awareness of the incredibly difficult issues in these kinds of cases, particularly in cases where the persons can't speak for themselves. Traditionally, when we talk about the right to die, we speak about it in cases of people who are terminally ill and in horrible suffering. We now have a law in Oregon, and the debate over that is, ought you allow that, ought you assist that? And in those cases, you've got a person who speaks on his own behalf and says, I want to die. Well, none of those conditions apply in this particular case. She is not terminally ill. She is not in suffering. Even the people who want to pull the plug on her are saying that if she starved to death, she wouldn't have any pain. And she obviously does not speak on her own behalf. So it is the hardest possible case. And I think it's made us think about how do we speak on behalf of somebody who can't speak. And that's the crux of this issue right here.
One of the difficult parts of this is that the legal principle the courts have relied on is that the spouse is the guardian and has the final say. Even when the parents of Terri Schiavo in this case disagree and want to keep her alive, is there any other way to resolve disputes like this over life and death when you have this kind of division of opinion within the family?
Well, I think that's what people ought to look at today, because the logic is, in generally speaking, the spouse is the one you'd want speaking on behalf of the person. The spouse, after all, you choose your spouse and not your parents. And also, if you're an adult, you spend your adult life with the spouse and not the parents. So it's logical that in general, it ought to be the spouse who speaks on behalf and who's given the surrogacy, if you like. But obviously, we now have a case in which you've got a spouse who has, let's say, a conflict of interest, as we might say in a political context. He's got a woman he lives with. He's got 2 children by her. So I'm not necessarily saying that he's not speaking honestly on behalf of Terri, but we cannot read into his heart and his motives. So in a case like that of an obvious conflict, and in which you have the parents who say they want her to live, I think we might want to look at changing the laws that automatically assign the surrogacy and the supremacy to the spouse, and perhaps have a law which says if there's a division among the family, we probably ought to err on the side of awarding custody to those who want the person to live.
Now, there was evidence introduced in the state courts over the long course of this trial that there was, quote unquote, clear and convincing evidence that she had said she did not want to be kept alive under circumstances like these.
Well, I think the evidence is hardly clear and convincing. If she'd left a living will or anything in writing or a durable power of attorney, yes, you'd be able to say that was clear and convincing. Clearly not. The husband says he heard her comment on this. It's his hearsay. It's, again, he's a person who may not be a reliable witness. We really don't know. And even if you leave a written instruction, you never really know how you'll feel after something happens. Will you change your mind as you accommodate yourself to a new and perhaps difficult reality? So we really do not know. And we don't know the other key question, is there anybody home? Is there any consciousness, any awareness? Some of the neurologists say none. On the other hand, you've got some evidence that there might be some awareness. And if you have these doubts, I think you have to opt on the side of life.
One of the difficult things about this has been, for the general public, there's been a certain discomfort with this if you look at the polls. And even though people may say Congress shouldn't have intervened and that sort of thing, there is enormous sympathy with the husband on the one hand, who wants to let her die, and the parents on the other hand, who want to keep her alive. The public, all of us, seem to be genuinely conflicted about this case.
And that's because there is no good outcome. The tragedy happened when she had her heart attack many years ago and lost most of the function of her cortex or brain, perhaps all. Again, we're not sure. When that happens, there's not going to be a happy outcome. And because our laws are rather strict, and because the laws in Florida automatically assign surrogacy to the husband, you've got what is essentially a legal process which I think has been honest and played out fairly, but it led to a conclusion that everybody understands is rather a tragic one. You've got a woman whose parents want to keep her alive, and somehow the train of the law is unstoppable, heading into a death that we're all watching, almost starstruck and shocked as she is reaching her demise without anybody being able to stop it.
About 30 seconds left. Some people on both sides have tried to make this a political fight. What do you make of that?
I'm sure there are politicians who wanted to exploit this on the left and on the right, but I do believe that for the large majority of people in Congress and also on the streets, this is an issue of deep sincerity. It's a difficult moral issue, and people are speaking their heart. I would give them the benefit of the doubt on that issue.
Charles Krauthammer, thank you very much. We have to take a break to pay some bills and update other headlines. When we come back, a mayor sues his own town for telling him to shut up. That's next on The Grapevine.
Sarah, you know that summer home you've always dreamed of building here?
Yeah. What about it?
Well, I've been thinking. If we juggle some things in the portfolio, I think we could make that happen a little sooner than we thought.
Oh, wow. That would be great. Hon, what do you think?
Sweet. When you work with a Morgan Stanley financial advisor, you get someone unusually devoted to your dreams, one client at a time.
Is heartburn keeping you away from the foods you love? Come back to Mylanta Classic and eat what you like.
Hey, welcome back, Louie.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Get soothing comfort on contact and that classic taste again. Mylanta Classic. Welcome back to the foods you love.
Hey, Larry. Aching for some bacon?
Hey, Larry. Hungry, partner?
Larry! Long time no see!
Top of the morning, Larry.
English muffin?
How about some biscuits and gravy?
Oh, let's pig out, Larry.
Nobody move! He's got the bar!
When your willpower's tested, reach for a whole grain Nutri-Grain bar instead. Now with 10% more real fruit.
Look, it's Amy! Hello, Amy!
When you see the words LaserTrack and Craftsman, you know you've got the precision measuring tool. Check out the Craftsman LaserTrack measuring tool from Sears. Just point, press, and you've got it. Measures room length, calculates area, even gives you cubic footage. Don't get caught short. Get your specs right the first time. You'll save time and money. Ultrasonic technology gives you measurements for carpeting, tile, and paint in seconds. Lose the measuring tape. Get the Craftsman LaserTrack measuring tool. Easy, accurate, indispensable.
Call, click, or come to Sears and get the Craftsman LaserTrack measuring tool and carrying case, now on sale, just $29.99.
Skip the guesswork.